Okay, everyone knows The Godfather, right? The music, the quotes, it's just this absolute giant of a movie. But what if I told you that it's not really about the mob at all? I mean, what if behind all those iconic lines, there's a story that's actually about America, about a nation in a deep, deep crisis? You see, the film is like a mirror, and what it shows us about power, well, it's just as real today as it was 50 years ago.
And look, that's not just me making some wild film school theory. That's a direct quote from the director himself, Francis Ford Coppola. A metaphor for capitalism in America? I mean, wow, that's a pretty bold claim, isn't it? So to really get what he was talking about, we've got to do a little time traveling. We need to go back and understand the world that The Godfather was actually born into. Because you have to understand, The Godfather wasn't just a movie. It was a direct product of an incredibly turbulent time.
So, try to put yourself in the early 1970s. America was, well, it was reeling. You had the defeat in Vietnam, which created this deep national paranoia, right? This feeling that you just couldn't trust the government. And then, bam, Watergate happens, and it basically proves all those fears were true. Corruption went all the way to the very top. On top of that, you throw in an oil crisis that creates all this economic anxiety, and what you get is this national mood of decay, and just a total, complete collapse of faith in the system.
And you know what? Hollywood was having its own crisis too. The golden age, totally over. The old studio system was just crumbling. A studio like Paramount Pictures, they were on the ropes, totally desperate for a hit. So they decided to place this massive, massive bet on adapting Mario Puzo's blockbuster novel. It was a huge gamble that could either save the studio or sink it for good.
So who do they hand this massive project to? A young, pretty unknown Italian-American director named Francis Ford Coppola. And let me tell you, from day one, it was a war. A flat-out war between Coppola and the studio to get his vision onto the screen.
You know the line. It's got to be one of the most famous in all of cinema history. But here's the really cool part, the part that's kind of meta. That line perfectly describes Coppola's own strategy with the studio. Seriously, he wasn't there to negotiate or compromise. He was there to make them offers they simply couldn't refuse. And you really have to appreciate just how insane these demands seemed at the time. First off, Marlon Brando. The studio hated the idea. He had this reputation for being an absolute nightmare to work with, box office poison. Then, for Michael Corleone, they wanted a huge star, somebody like Robert Redford, not some unknown theater actor named Al Pacino. Shooting on location in New York? A total budget killer. And Coppola's vision for this dark, shadowy look? The studio was terrified audiences would hate it, that they wouldn't even be able to see what was happening. But at every single one of these points, Coppola just would not back down. And somehow, he won. In this next little story, it tells you everything you need to know about what Coppola was fighting for. To prove he was the right guy for the part, Marlon Brando, and he didn't tell anybody he was going to do this, he just famously stuffed cotton balls in his cheeks for his screen test. And just like that, he created that iconic, bulldog-like look of Vito Corleone. On the spot. That is pure artistry, and Coppola knew that that was the soul of his movie.
So, Coppola won his battles. He got to make the film his way. But why? Why did he fight so hard for these really specific choices? Well, it's because his vision went way beyond just making another gangster film. He was crafting this incredibly powerful, multi-layered commentary on America itself. So when you really break it down, the film is built on these two powerful metaphors. First, you've got the political one, the American metaphor. Michael Corleone's journey, it's kind of like America's story, right? He starts out as this idealistic war hero, a total outsider to the family business. But to protect his family, he transforms into this cold, ruthless Don. It's a perfect mirror for how a lot of people saw America's own transformation on the world stage after World War II. But then there's this other layer, something much deeper.
It's this concept called asabiyet. It comes from a 14th century philosopher, Ibn Khaldun. So what is it? Well, think of it as this intense, primal social solidarity. It's that us against the world feeling. It's the glue that binds a family or a tribe or any group, really. And it forces them to protect their own survival, no matter the cost. When you're talking about asabiyet, loyalty to the group isn't just a virtue, it is literally the only thing that matters, and it operates completely outside the bounds of conventional morality. And this, right here, this is the key that unlocks the entire movie. Think about it. When Michael orders a hit, the film doesn't frame it as some act of pure evil. No, it's framed as a defense of the family, a defense of its asabiyet. Every single act of violence is justified by this primal code. It stops being about right or wrong. It's just us versus them, period.
So,
The big question is, how on earth did Coppola and his team take these really dense, complex ideas and turn them into, well, into one of the most compelling movies ever made?
Well, a huge part of the answer lies with the revolutionary cinematography of Gordon Willis. I mean, they called this guy the Prince of Darkness, and for a very good reason. He basically painted with shadows. He used this incredibly low-key lighting to create a visual world that was just dripping with mystery and moral ambiguity.
And see, the darkness wasn't just about looking cool. It was pure storytelling. The shadows themselves become a kind of visual language, right? They're constantly concealing and then revealing the moral decay of the characters. I mean, just think about it for a second. How often in that movie can you not quite see a character's eyes? It's done on purpose. It leaves you guessing, wondering what they're really thinking. It is an absolute masterclass in visual storytelling.
And of course, you can't talk about The Godfather without talking about Nino Rota's score. I mean, that haunting, melancholic theme, it's not just music, is it? It's the actual soul of the film. It somehow captures all of it, the tragedy, the honor, the violence, and that deep sadness at the heart of the Corleone family saga.
You know, the success of The Godfather wasn't just big, it was seismic. It wasn't just a hit movie, it changed cinema forever. And it gave Francis Ford Coppola the power to basically become the emperor of a whole new era in Hollywood.
His friend, the screenwriter John Milius, I think he put it best. Coppola's victory over the studio, it ushered in what we now call New Hollywood in the 1970s. This was a golden age where the visionary directors, not the suits in the office, were finally in charge. You think about Scorsese, Spielberg, Lucas, all of them. They walked right through the door that Coppola kicked wide open. And Coppola, he used that newfound power to go on what might be the single greatest creative run in the history of cinema. I'm not exaggerating. In just 7 years, he directed these 4 films. Every single one of them is an undisputed masterpiece. I mean, that is a creative streak that has arguably never, ever been matched. Not before and not since.
So when you boil it all down, the real enduring power of The Godfather, it isn't just about the amazing plot or the characters we can all quote by heart, right? It's that the film serves as this timeless and frankly chilling warning. A warning about how seductive power can be, about the brutal demands of loyalty, and about just how easily our own ideals can be corrupted, all in the name of survival.
Which, leaves us with one last lingering question. Here we are, 50 years later. And when you look at the world around us, are these themes of power and corruption and this kind of loyalty that trumps all morality, is that just a historical metaphor, something from a movie, or are we still living in the world that The Godfather showed us all those years ago?